So you can compete in terms of service being the best service, quality, right? You can compete in terms of speed, or you can compete in terms of price, right? How cheap it is. But you can't be super cheap, super fast, and have great quality.
So that's just the reality of life is, yeah, you got to make money. But that cannot be the bedrock of how you build your business. Because those things come at you occasionally. Business owners don't want to hire us. Just going to be honest, they don't want to hire us. They'd rather not. They'd actually rather not have employees. They'd rather not have customers. They just want revenue, right? But the truth is they don't want to hire us.
So Dean, I know a lot of people come to your program and they're in a place where they're leaving corporate or they were consultants and they're really looking at the fractional industry and wanting to become a fractional executive. But my question to you, is there a uniform process or is there a starting place that you tell someone or even a question that you ask when someone's saying, hey, I think I want to go into fractional? What's the first thing that you're going to ask them and where should they start thinking about this?
Yeah, it's a really common question. How do I get started? And actually, that's not even the best question. The best question is, why do you even want to get started? So that's where I start is, why do you want to be a fractional? Why? How is that going to serve your business, your life, your family, your community? What's the goal? What's your intention of getting into this line of work? And that really sets the tone for how we work together and how this member can build their business around what they want. So it serves them first.
Yeah.
And then also serves their ideal client.
So you now probably asked that question a bunch. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. And so everybody knows, sometimes we talk about a little bit of show notes before we get started and have an idea where we're going. But I put on a curveball, okay? All right. And so here's the curveball, Dean, that you're not expecting. So you asked that question. How many people actually answer that question well or have an answer to that question that even makes logical sense that they've thought about?
It's very few have thought beyond, I need to make money. Right. In some form or fashion, that's really their response. I want to replace my full-time corporate income without the hassle, the stress, the travel, the ridiculous hours. That's as far as they've thought.
And now, why is that a problem?
The concept I would just say the concept of building a business that serves you first hasn't even crossed their mind. Like, I'm just going to be a CMO for companies and make money and not have to do the corporate thing anymore. That's as far as they go.
So why is that a problem, though? So if somebody's listening and they're feeling, because if you say most people are like that, you who listening to us right now, you probably had that thought too. But why is that a problem, Dean?
Because then you're like the other 150,000 fractionals on LinkedIn that just say, I'm a fractional, hire me. With no intention, no clear definition of the type of ideal client they want to serve, no clear definition of how they are going to help their clients achieve their goals, no even clear definition of how many clients I want to have and what do they look like and how much revenue per client. There's no strategy behind executing the business. I have an exercise I take all new members of the Fractional Launchpad through, and where it starts is asking questions about them. What is their, not just their area of expertise, but what are things they are good at and love to do? I may be really good at accounting, but if I hate it, I'm not going to be a successful business owner, right? I'm not going to be able to sell that and do that on a daily basis. But if I love the numbers, I'm in there figuring, all of a sudden it becomes a passion and it comes through in how you market yourself. Yeah. So start with yourself because you get to build the business around what you want and need in your life, and the business will support that.
Okay. It starts there. You have an exercise you take people through, and so it's something that they should do and really get an understanding of what it is that they want to build. Now, you and I talk all the time about ideal customer profile. And you just mentioned that. You said, so after you do that, then you get into the ideal customer profile, right? But I want to take this a slightly different. I'm throwing you another curveball here, Dean. Hope you don't mind. But so here's the curveball, though. You and I believe very strongly in ideal customer profile and why it's so important. Okay. Could you, for us, argue the other side? Why is it not important? Why should someone just ignore everything that we've said about ideal customer profile and go out and do it on their own? And how would what would it look like for them to have success in ignoring everything we've ever said on ideal customer profile and just going out and saying, I represent anybody who makes money and I can help them make more, or whatever they say?
Yep. I think that it's a good question. And I think that I can answer it very sarcastically, right? Let my sarcasm come through. But the reality is this: if you want to position yourself as a low ticket, low value, commoditized offer, go do that. Go do that. Be the dollar store of the fractional world. And hopefully those people with a couple of bucks that can spend on something will find you. They'll stumble into your store and spend $2 with you. If that's how you want to build your model, you go do that. Have fun.
Be the dollar store of the fractional market. I think that is the quote of the year, folks. Okay? Be the dollar store of the fractional market. Yeah, okay. So what you're saying is, if you want the low budget, if you want to fight to get every single client, to be nickel and dimed, then don't do an ideal customer profile.
Yep. Exactly.
So the question then becomes, for you listening to us right now, is that where you want to be? And here's the deal. There's nothing wrong if that's where you want to be. Okay? Because in this marketplace that we have, the world, you can only compete on one out of three things, in truth. Okay? So you can compete in terms of service being the best service, quality, right? You can compete in terms of speed, how quickly you can do something, or you can compete in terms of price, right? How cheap it is. But you can't be super cheap, super fast, and have great quality. You can't be super cheap and have great quality. You can only compete in one. And so not having that ideal customer profile, as Dean said so eloquently, being that dollar store, the Dollar General, right?
Yep.
You know, when you go, and that's who you want to be, when you go in there, what you're going to get is poor quality. And that's what you're going to give to your clients. And if that's okay with you, great. However, as we know our ideal customer, Dean, and we know our ideal listener here on the Fractional Pros podcast, we also know they're not the dollar store fractional executive. And so therefore, you must build your ideal customer profile.
Yep.
You got to do it.
You got to do it. And as you do it, you have to align that with the kind of work you want to do and the kind of people you want to work with. If you decide you want to commoditize your service and sell to the dollar store customers, you're going to need a boatload of customers to make enough money to keep the lights on. That's just the truth, right? It's just that your margins are thin, your volumes are high, just churn and burn. That is not the model for a fractional executive. The average fractional executive, if you're really in a fractional executive role, truly in the business, engaged with the business, embedded in the business, you're going to have 2 to 3 clients, probably, depending on your discipline. Maybe 4, and you're going to be pulling your hair out at that point with how busy you are. That is not the low quality, high volume business. That is the opposite. That is the complete opposite. So to achieve those 2 or 3 ideal clients, you've got to know who the heck they are. What problems they're trying to solve. What is their intention for their business and how you can help them achieve that intention.
But Dean, how do you deal with okay, I've decided that I'm going to work with business A and solve problem B. But then business C walked in and they had problem D, and I can solve that. Shouldn't I solve it? I need to make the money. How do we deal with that, Dean?
Yeah. I'm laughing because every single advisor, consultant, fractional runs across this situation, especially early on. And I get it, right? You got to make money. One of the things that everybody says is we have to make money in the business. That's why we're not for profit, right? We're here to make money. So it is hard to turn away those I can do that type opportunities, even if it's not in our lane. And I'll be honest, right at the beginning, you're gonna say yes to some of those, and actually that's okay to a point. To a point, as long as you set guardrails up for that engagement, and it doesn't take you too far down a rabbit hole. It allows you to continue to focus on marketing and servicing your ideal clients. Right? I'm never going to say to somebody that needs revenue to not take revenue, but don't let it distract you. Create, maybe instead of it being a fractional engagement, a long-term relationship, scope it as a project. So it's a defined deliverable for a particular set of
Guardrails.
amount of
Yeah.
time, for a set price. Get in there, make the money, pay the bills, whatever you need to do, while you have time and focus on other things. So that's just the reality of life is, yeah, you got to make money. But that cannot be the bedrock of how you build your business. Because those things come at you occasionally. Look at them cautiously, but look at them. But you've got to stay focused on the core part of your business. Because at the end of the day, we want a sustainable, predictable business that's going to sustain over time. And these random projects that you can do or you can figure out how to do isn't sustainable for the business long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So we started off by saying, let's figure out what the intention of starting this business is. That's where we got to start. We've looked at who are we going to serve. But now if we know who we're going to serve, it stands to reason that the next thing has to be, what's their problem? What are we actually solving for them? Which bleeds out of the conversation we were just having a little bit just now as well. But why is it so important to know exactly the problem that we're solving and be specific with it to the place where it's something that's so dire to this business owner that they have to take action?
Yep. It's that Monday morning problem, right? They think about it Sunday night or they think about it Monday morning. That is the thing that occupies their brain all the time. It has to be that important. Business owners don't want to hire us. Just going to be honest, they don't want to hire us. They'd rather not. They'd actually rather not have employees. They'd rather not have customers. They just want revenue, right? But the truth is they don't want to hire us. What do they want to do? They want to solve the problem. They want to go beyond that. They want the outcome of solving the problem. They don't even want to solve the problem, quite honestly. So if we don't understand the problem, we don't understand their intention of solving the problem, the outcome, they're not even going to talk to us. They're not even going to perceive us as a potential solution. They're not hiring us for our solution. They're hiring us so they can achieve the outcome of solving the problem.
Yeah. And so that leads then into understanding that you're not a fractional XO, right? You are a problem solver. You're outcome driven. You're solution driven. Okay. And you're giving this business owner a certain level of certainty that the pain that they're in, they're no longer going to be in. Like you said, the business owner doesn't actually care how you do it. They really don't. As long as it doesn't get them in more trouble and create more problems.
Obviously,
right?
right?
As long as you stay there inside of those bounds, they really don't care. Okay? If you come in, I've got this major problem, you solve it, it is worth X to me, and I pay you less than X, the business owner feels like they win, which is the point. Right? But I think this is one of the things, Dean, where so many people then start to screw themselves up. Even if they did all the early work, they then just position themselves like everyone else in the market.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And this is a cautionary tale to not do that.
Yep.
Now, there's also the other side. Because I have met some of us who go out there and we come up with these terms that no one understands. And we say things that make people scratch their heads. That, on the other side, is not good either. People need to understand what you're saying.
Exactly.
But it shouldn't sound like everyone else.
Right. Yeah. There's a concept that a lot of people have heard about. I call it being a visible expert.
Mhm.
You could call it being a thought leader, a subject matter expert, whatever it is. But there are two pieces to being a visible expert. The expert piece, but the more important piece is being visible, right? But being visible to your ideal client is just one small piece.
Yeah.
You have to be, it's how you're visible, how you're recognized. So if we think about what we just said, we said know the problem the business owner is trying to solve and understand the intentions or the outcomes of solving that problem. Imagine if you put yourself out in the world as the number one go-to expert for helping business owners achieve that goal by solving that problem in that particular industry or market. And that's all you talk about all day long. Not the how, not the widget that you provide, but focused on the problem and the outcome and the results, right? Do you feel like that would attract the attention of business owners that have that known problem in your market?
In droves.
That's how you get started as a fractional, guys. That's it right there, is to think through and get clear on that. And then when you launch the website and you launch the LinkedIn profile and you do all the things that people say I need to have, which by the way you don't, they spend hours and thousands getting ready to launch. And when they finally hit go, it's crickets because they haven't taken into consideration what we're talking about in today's episode.
Correct.
That's where you start.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're just giving you a blueprint. Now, the beauty of this blueprint is it doesn't matter if you are starting today or if you started a year ago. You can take the time right now and execute this blueprint that we just gave you. Go through these steps, set your intention, understand why you're doing it, understand your ideal customer, understand what their real pain is that you're solving, what they really want, what their real outcomes are, and then position yourself as the solution to those pains. Okay?
Yep.
You can do that work.
Yep. You can do it. And if you do it, then how you package, how you price, all that stuff falls into alignment. It becomes super simple.
Easy. Okay? So stop trying to build a big fancy house when your foundation isn't right. So, as always, he's Dean. I'm Atiba. We're the Fractional Pros. We'll see you next time.
See you in the next one.